I never know what I'm going to do till I do it. I make sure I know the names of the fighters, but I don't rehearse. I get in there, I feel the energy of the crowd, I let it fly. And that's what works for me. Every night I walk in that octagon, I got to prove to myself, the powers that be, you, the fans, the fighters, my mom, that I deserve this job.
Front row seat.
Hello, I'm your host, Shane Mercer, and welcome to Front Row Seat, part of the Millions Podcast Network. Remember to like, subscribe, download, follow us on all the socials at frontrow.pod. Our guest today needs no introduction, especially if you're an MMA fan. He is the legendary veteran voice of the Octagon and the man who coined the term, "It's time." Bruce Buffer, welcome to the show.
Hi, Shane. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, great, man. So glad to have you on and to be able to chat with you here. I want to get into a little bit about how you got into broadcasting, got into being, the veteran voice of the Octagon. But first, I want to go all the way back to, your early days in getting into mixed martial arts, because a lot of people might not know, but you used to actually train as a fighter.
Yeah, actually, I've been in martial arts since I was 12. My first start was judo. And then I moved from Philadelphia out to Malibu, and I met some of Chuck Norris's black belt students and fighting partners, and I got into the art of Tang Sudo, which is the Korean style that Chuck started when he was in the Air Force. And from there, I studied different arts, but I trained a lot. We trained, we fought. All I did was train martial arts and surf every week. That's all I did. And then I wanted to fight for real because, like a lot of us, my own experiences in street fights and beach fights and everything. The point fighting was not really the most exciting for me, although it's great. Karate Kid, the whole bit. I have no problem with it. I think it's wonderful, and it's great for people to do that. But I wanted to fight for real, so I got into the world of kickboxing, and I got very heavily into that for about 12 years. Then I had to stop due to concussions and stuff as far as fighting is concerned. But I love the martial arts, and that's why when the UFC came on the scene, I knew that was for me.
You stopped kickboxing, what was it, around the age, in your early 30s, right?
Basically around 32. Where
did you see your career going then when you left the world of sport fighting? Did you know at that time that you were going to have a future in the sport still?
Basically, it was around that time, during that time, that I met my long-lost half-brother I never grew up with, Michael Buffer, and that I took over. I sold 2 companies, and I took over his management and became his partner and trademarked the famous 5 words of air, "Let's get ready to rumble," and then started building the brand with him as he built his career. And that was my main focus back then. And then the UFC came on the scene, and I got Michael involved in the UFC. To announce it first. And then I couldn't continue because after 3 events, we had a big contract with WCW Wrestling back then, which is, huge. Michael loved wrestling. Over the course of a year and a half, a lot of trial and error after announcing the prelims at one show and UFC 10, the entire show, I got called in to co-star on Friends, the TV show. And when I did that, I used that as a bartering tool to convince the owner to let me become the steady Octagon announcer for the UFC, because I had the media contacts, which they did and did not have, and people were scared of UFC back then. So I said, listen, I will help you build this brand. That's what I am. I'm a brand builder, but I need to grow with you as the announcer. I need to just grow as the announcer, and I'll do everything I can to get this out there because I think this is going to be the biggest thing in the world of fighting sports.
Yeah, I mean, and sure enough, that's what it became. People don't realize this, but yeah, you and Michael didn't grow up together.
No.
You've met each other very late in life. Talk to me about how that happened.
Michael started getting really popular in the late 90s. When Mike Tyson was making boxing the resurgence and boxing came back, it was the water cooler conversation on a Monday. And what happened was people would stop me and they'd say, hey, is that your brother that goes, let's get ready to rumble? I'm like, no, my brother's Brian, right? And then when I was watching the TV, as big a boxing fan as I was and am, it was, again, the water cooler conversation on Monday. There were great fights happening every single week. So when out came this debonair-looking James Bond-style announcer that was changing the world of announcing, I noticed on the screen his last name was Buffer, and I owned telemarketing companies in my 20s and my 30s, and I never saw my last name in a phone book because we didn't have the internet back then.
Right.
So when that happened, I'm like, who is this guy? Everything just started coming up, and it all came to fruition.
So how did you make the final connection?
He was doing an event out here in LA, a small LA event at a venue. And I had my dad call him and leave his number. Michael called him back. They got together for lunch, and it turned out to be his son. Long lost son.
Wow. Was it like an instant relationship after that? Because obviously you guys went on and you formed a business together.
That occurred like 4 years later. We built our friendship, built our relationship, and then I started teeter-tottering on little tiny things with him here and there. And I realized the potential when I was at a fight, the Evander Holyfield-Riddick Bowe fight, the first time they fought in like 1992 or 91. And it was that night that I had the epiphany in Vegas. And I went back to my room and I wrote like 4 or 5 pages of notes, 3 pages of notes about what I would do, put them in the basketball courts, football fields, corporate meetings, make video games, toys, trademark the phrase properly, T-shirts, hats, and nothing had been done. And it all started with, with that furor, that passionate moment I had at that, my hotel room. Instead of going out and, playing with the girls and playing blackjack and doing what everybody does in Vegas, I just got real serious and I realized that I had to meet with him. And I met with him and said, basically, I'm going to make you richer and more famous than you ever dreamed if you allow me to be your manager and your partner. And let's make this happen. We'll make history. In Risky Business, when Tom Cruise said it, what the F, you got to just go for it.
Yeah, exactly. And, clearly you did. Something I just learned about you, I had no idea, but you're really like a serial entrepreneur.
If you look in the dictionary, it should say i.e. Bruce Buffer, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you've had a lot of businesses, and on the side, you're a card shark, as you just mentioned. You're out there hustling guys at the table.
Like I said, I'm always honest, but if you play me poker, then, I'm going to lie through my teeth. I want your money.
And on top of all of that, too, you're also the co-founder of this incredible company that is, changing the sports landscape and connecting the sports world through technology called Millions.co. For, transparency's sake, of course, I work for Millions. Bruce, you're kind of my boss in some ways here as a co-founder. I want the backstory on how you became a co-founder of Millions and how you hooked up with Matt and Scott Whitaker and Brandon and Adrian.
First off, they're all great guys, amazing business acumen, pleasure to work with all of them. And I would love to say that it was my idea, but it was their idea. They came to me. And when they came to me and I realized that Millions.co was the type of company that could help, in the first instance when we talked, help fighters learn how to brand themselves and earn income beyond their fight purse that night that they fight and teach them how to build their business and build their brand. This is what I'm all about, because let's face it, it's a very lonely business being a fighter. It's one of the most difficult things in the world. They should be making money every way they possibly can. And Millions is amazing at the fact that they can turn out a whole merchandise line for any individual sports star or even NCAA college athlete with social media and direct marketing to their fan base, whether they have 5,000 fans, 500, 50,000, or 5 million. The bottom line is people have fans out there in the professional sports and college sports space, and their fans want to be part of them. Millions offering the video aspect of, cameo style videos to AMA Ask Me Anythings to all that stuff to the merchandise line. This is a great way for, them to connect with their fans and stay connected, because that's really what the secret of business is. One of the many secrets of business, but it's to stay connected to your direct marketing audience. And Millions is brilliant at that. And they're just knocking down the doors. I'm so proud of this company.
Was it easy for you to make the decision? Like when they approached you, was it a hard sell for them? Did you have to take some time, or was it like, no, I'm all in?
No, it wasn't a hard sell. I was all in. Again, their business acumen was so obvious. Everything about it, I couldn't argue with anything about it. I'm not the most technical person in the world, but I mean, I understand it. It's easy to operate. And no, it was not hard at all. Not hard at all. It was almost like a no-brainer.
Yeah, well, I can tell you, it's a lot of fun to be part of this company. And, you talk about connecting with people and connecting with fans. And here's the podcast, another great way for athletes to connect with their fans. And I've been able, lucky enough to be able to speak to a lot of them so far. And I've got plans to speak to so many more and help them connect with their fans. And, I'm just having a lot of fun doing it. And I hope that they're having fun too.
Oh, yeah, of course.
I want to talk a little bit more about you specifically as an announcer. And, you talked about the rise of the UFC, and it's very well documented over the last 20, 25 years. I want to do a little Instagram share here, a little screen share with you. And I think you actually posted this yourself. And it's just a great way that sort of shows how far you've come over the years. So I'm going to give it a play here.
Are you ready? Are you ready? This is our last and final championship bout of the evening.
Oh, boy.
And now, for those in attendance and UFC fans.
And there's the Bruce we all know and love.
Around the world, this is the moment you've all been waiting for. Live from the Five-Star Veterans Memorial Arena in Jacksonville, Florida.
All right, so there we go. There we have it. I mean, what a great video, though, that shows how far you came as an announcer.
You know, everything in life's an evolutionary process, as I say. There's a perfect example of it right there. You know, we all have to start somewhere, and you learn how to build your tools and strengthen them. And so I look at that as like baby Bruce, 26 years ago, 26 plus years ago.
Yeah, and I mean, baby Bruce was part of the baby UFC because it was very different back then, right?
It was a spectacle,
Yeah.
total spectacle. And being a spectacle, it needed refinement. It needed rules to be put in place. I realized the potential of it. I stuck with it, working for short money and losing money and doing the sacrifices that a lot of people had to do to get this off the ground back then. But you know what? It's a proud moment, something to be very, very proud about.
You talk about the sacrifices. Tell me one big sacrifice that you personally made along the way to help grow the UFC.
Well, it was short money. Every time I went away, I wasn't really making money. I was losing money, travel and time and everything else. The sacrifices in the time, the sacrifices in believing when it got tough and wondering, are we even going to go anywhere with this? There was a point there when we were called human cockfighting and taken off the air by In Demand and only on DirecTV and available to a fraction of the audience that we had. The question mark was, are we going to survive this? Is this going to work? Right. So I always believed it would. And then when Lorenzo Fertitta and his brother Frank and Dana bought the company, then obviously everything came into fruition. It was all good.
Did you know at that time when they bought the company that, these were going to be the guys to take this to the next level? Or were you skeptical in any way?
No, I knew that they would be the guys to take it to the next level. I definitely knew that because when I met them, we all got together for dinner. And when we got together for dinner, then it was evident to me their passion for what they were doing.
Yeah, it was just clear to you at that time.
Totally clear to me. Completely clear to me.
Over the years, you've got to watch some incredible fights, and, ringside seats. So I just want to know, give me your two most memorable fights that you'll never forget.
Very hard to answer that question because I've seen so many. I've seen all the greatest fights in the world over the last 26 years, even in boxing. And I can only give you examples of great fights. I can't tell you the two greatest fights.
Fair enough. But what comes to mind?
Obviously, Stephen Bonner and Forrest Griffin at the first Ultimate Fighter, stands out without any reason, just fantastic. UFC 100, doing the 360 in front of Brock Lesnar on that monumental night. The whole night stands out. Watching Joanna Jędrzejczyk and Zhang Weili going at it, that fight stands out. I can go on and on and on and on and on. So many amazing Randy Couture's brawls with Vitor Belfort in the early days, you name it. It's impossible to say. Every time I see one that's the greatest fight, boom, I see another one that's the greatest fight. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, here's one that I know that you'll never forget because you actually suffered a pretty serious personal injury inside the cage.
I was at a poker tournament the week before, and I got up during the poker tournament, and when I was walking, I hit a dip in the carpet and rolled my ankle. I could not stand on my leg the next morning. I had to go get a bunch of blood drawn out of the ankle. Went to the day 2 of the tournament on crutches, wound up getting third place, winning like $30,000, and then not being able to stand up on my leg. And here's the biggest event coming in history, 45,000 people in Canada, sold out in 20 minutes, and I can't stand up. So I managed to get there, worked on pure adrenaline, was able to operate on Saturday, did the jump, did the turn, did everything I normally do. And then during George's introduction, when I said George Rush St. Pierre, he lunges out as he normally does, and I bunny hop back about a foot and a half like I normally do. And my bad ankle wobbled and my knee blew. I severed my ACL right at that moment, but I didn't fall. Thank God. I managed to hold it up. I went over to Herb Dean, stuck my microphone under his arm like I do during the main events when he's doing his thing, and my knee's going back and forth, and I realized I blew my knee. And then when I get out of the Octagon hopping on one leg, which you can see on TV, John McCarthy comes up because I think you just blew your ACL. Now Stitch Duran puts an ice bag on my knee. What's wrong with that picture? I'm the announcer. Two warriors are in the Octagon, and I'm sitting there with an ice bag on my knee. So I had one more fight to announce the winner. I got in, and then being the big stadium it was the longest walk ever to get backstage, which was not the perfect timing in that situation. But, I went through it. I did it. And then I braced it up for 3 months, got operated 3 months later, was back in the Octagon 4 weeks later doing my thing.
You had to get back in there.
I had to get back in there.
Wow, man, it's unbelievable to think that you could suffer that kind of an injury doing what you do, but you have quite the performance inside the Octagon. Like, I mean, I don't think there's any other announcer out there that's ever done what you do inside an arena or inside a cage or a ring, with all of the movement and the energy that you bring.
Well, I don't like to blow my horn, but yeah, you're right. That's my choice to be that way. And people try to copy me. Like they always copy my brother and they still do, which is an honor. And then they'll try to copy me, which is an honor. But, it's like I always tell everybody, develop your own style.
Yeah.
Look at everybody, take pieces from everybody, develop your own style, make it work for yourself.
Yeah. And that's clearly what you did as we looked back all the way back, 25 years ago and saw you in more recent times there. Your style really developed.
I never know what I'm going to do till I do it. I make sure I know the names of the fighters, but I don't rehearse. I get in there and I feel the energy of the crowd. I let it fly. And that's what works for me. Every night I walk in that Octagon, I got to prove to myself, the powers that be, you, the fans, the fighters, my mom, that I deserve this job.
And speaking of jobs, as we mentioned, you're a serial entrepreneur, the co-founder of Millions, but there's another big business that you've gotten yourself into, the world of bourbon. And I just want to do another quick screen share here with you. And you just posted this.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that, one very cool video. A nice way to mark Memorial Day, though, too, because that's a special drink, right?
Yes, that's a Manhattan they were pouring there. And Puncher's Chance is so good at their graphics and the way they make everything. I love that little blurb there. But you know what? Puncher's Chance is selling like crazy. We've won 6 gold medals, 3 for taste, 3 for design of the bottle. The Bourbon Spectator just called us the top 5 best sipping whiskey in America at the $30 price range, which is a hell of an honor. So I'm breaking down doors with my partners. Again, another very successful venture. I'm going to build this into a $500 million brand within the next 5 years. This is my goal. And I'm show the world how to do it the proper way. There you go.
Wow, little zing there at a UFC fighter.
I kid with Connor, but Connor's done amazing with his proper 12. Success breeds competition and competition breeds success. So with that being said, we're not in competition, but I want everybody to be successful. Connor's been very successful with his. The Rock is very successful with his tequila. A lot of celebrity brands don't do very well. I'm very happy to say that we're knocking down doors. We're the fastest selling, highest rated young bourbon in America, and it's awesome.
Well, I got to give it a try sometime because I haven't seen it at the stores up here in the Toronto area, but I definitely want to give it a sip sometime.
Please do. It'll be coming to Canada hopefully by the end of the year.
Oh, perfect. Awesome. Can't wait. Well, listen, man, I know you've got your own podcast to host. I know you got to get going here, but is there anything else you wanted to mention before we say goodbye?
At brucebuffer.com, people write us and we do championship introductions, birth of babies. We specialize in weddings, which we do a ton of. And I do a lot of business videos too, which are priced differently, of course. We love what we do. We get tears in our eyes as some of the thank you notes or many of the thank you notes we receive. And it's great being part of people's special days and special events. And I just love doing that. It's a very passionate thing. Partial proceeds go to charity, animal, military, and children charities. So I like to, make people happy.
You got an energy drink coming out too. What's that called?
It's time.
It's time.
Soft tested in England. It's made for athletes. You can drink 2-3 cans a day, no crash. There's no garbage like taurine and the horrible stuff that's in the, pardon me, and many of the other most popular energy drinks. It's not good for you. This is good for you.
I'm not on the energy drinks, and that's part of the reason. So I might, I would definitely be interested in It's Time. Awesome. Well, Bruce, thanks so much for stopping by and chatting with me. Really appreciate it. And hopefully we can connect again soon sometime.
Thanks, Shane. And let's keep it up with Millions.co. It's a great company doing a lot of good for a lot of people. And I'm just so proud to be a co-founder of Millions.co. It's amazing.
Hey, buddy. Awesome. Well, stay in touch. Thanks again. Take care, bro.
Thank you, buddy. Take care.
Thank you so much for joining me in the front row seat with the veteran voice of the Octagon, Bruce Buffer. Once again, I'm your host, Shane Mercer, and this podcast is presented by Millions.co. If you want to interact with Bruce, visit Millions.co to shop his merch and get personal videos. You can also find Front Row Seat on Millions to shop our merchandise. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on YouTube and follow us on all the socials at frontrow.pod. We'll see you next week with our next special guest as we dive deep and give you the front row seat.
Front row seat.